This is Robert Picardo, the holographic doctor from Star Trek Voyager, and Commander Woolsey from Stargate Atlantis. If I only get in Star Wars someday, I will have made the trifecta. And you're listening to Kneel Before Pod, because you are smart.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
My name is Craig McKenzie, and I'm definitely not the fastest man alive. When I was a child, I saw so many comic books and became obsessed. Then the internet made me someone who comments on them. To the outside world, I'm a slightly functional human being, but blatantly I use my nerdiness to comment extensively and find others like me. One day, I'll blend into society, but that day is not today. This is Kneel Before Pod. Here, as always, when we talk about DC shows, we've got Chris.
Hello.
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
And we have a brand new guest on Kneel Before Pod, first-time contributor. Hi, Andrew.
Hello there.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much for having me. I mean, I could have just waltzed straight in because, the security on this place is appalling.
Yeah, the security of this place. Much like something that we may talk about.
He's going to fit in here.
Andrew is a listener who wanted to contribute, and I'm all for letting people work for free, so that's why I'm letting him on. So, Andrew, why don't you tell us, the listeners, a little bit about yourself, since you've never been here before?
Okay, well, much like Craig, I am a gigantic nerd who writes things about films when he has the time, although not quite to the ridiculous extent which Craig somehow manages to do. And I am one of the lead writers for Starburst, which is the world's longest-running magazine of cult entertainment, as goes their official tagline. Which basically means I write nerdy reviews of nerdy films, and TV, and books, and comics, and audio, and games, and pretty much everything you can think of.
Basically living the dream.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for listeners who don't know, a magazine is a printed thing that's usually found in shops where you can turn pages and read stuff.
It's like a papery blog.
It's like a web page, but it's on actual paper. Sometimes glossy.
Ooh.
So you can find Andrew's writing in Starburst, which is available at all good and possibly not so good newsagents. I don't know, is it still in newsagents?
Are there still might be. Yeah, well, I know it's in W.H. Smith, which apparently was recently voted the world's worst high street chain.
Also,
according to Twitter.
Yeah, I saw that this morning. But how many high street chains are there left? It's a ghost town up there.
Greg's.
Greg's, yeah. Definitely one of the best, that one. For an American listeners, or just non-Scottish listeners, Greg's is a baker. You can get steak bakes for reasonable prices. Unfortunately, they're not sponsoring us.
If ever there was a sponsor that was befitting this podcast, I think a Greg's bake is pretty high up there, actually. That's yeah.
We could be eating donuts right now.
We could be. And we could be eating your company's donuts if you want to sponsor us here on Kneel Before Pod.
Yeah, if there's some online retailer of donuts that can send them fresh to your door,
oh, there must be.
We're all for it.
If not, we're going off to patent that right now.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, if not, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
You do have to make them, though, which would make our business plan fall apart, I think.
No, that's the dream. We go to Greg's, we buy the donuts, we sell them to customers at overinflated prices for a monthly subscription, and people forget they've signed up to our subscription, but still, donuts keep coming through their letterbox. It's awesome! We make loads of money!
Literally through their letterbox, just wrapped in, paper, just posted through, all crushed, jam everywhere.
A jiffy bag of crushed donuts.
Oh, I'd love that. That would be amazing. Not for the consumer, but it'd be amazing for me. It would be so funny. Anyway, enough about donuts. So, before we get onto our main topic, we're back with our brand new in-training feature. Seems to be going okay so far. We've had one instance of duplication, but less. But teething problems. They're allowed. Okay, so Andrew, since you're new here, You can go first. What would you like to kneel before?
Well, I would very much like to kneel before the trailer which was recently released for the Death of Superman, which is the next in line of the animated DC movies, because it looks truly magnificent. DC had previously done like this story before, like in what I believe was actually their first animated movie, which was Superman Doomsday.
It depends who. I mean, I think it's the first one of their kind of regular slate, but they had stuff before that, didn't they? They had like Mask of the Phantasm and stuff like that. Right,
yes. But it's also the first one in how they are chronologically listed on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And how I arranged them all to watch in order. And then it turned out that didn't matter because they all have different continuities. The trailer looks like the will be very exciting and action-packed, and since the very title tells you pretty much how it's going to end, it certainly seems that Doomsday looks like looks menacing and powerful enough to be convincing as a creature that can actually do that.
Yeah, I've seen that trailer, or I think I've seen some of the trailer. I think it's basically in the same continuity as the Justice League War and Throne of Atlantis films. Or the animation looks the same, anyway. Superman with so much neck on his costume.
Yeah, and also Wonder Woman having quite a distinct costume that she's been given in it.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks alright. Superman Doomsday was a film that I really liked, where you had, was it Adam Baldwin as Superman in that one? And
I think it was, yes.
As Lex Luthor, and cause there was a lot of buzz about that at the time, because look at all these celebrities they've got voicing these characters. Yeah, and this one, I'm wondering why they're doing it again, because they did it fine last time.
Yeah, well, I'm just guessing that they just think they can do it better.
Maybe. I'm just glad it's a DC film that's not about Batman for once.
Yes.
Does make a welcome change, doesn't it?
Because I don't know, it feels like there's a Batman animated film out every other week.
As brilliant as a character Batman is, it's nice to have a little variation every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be good. In terms of a pure design aesthetic point of view, I don't really like the New 52 style costumes. You know, the Superman without trunks just feels wrong to me. But other than that, I think it'll look. Yeah, the animation looks pretty cool. The fight sequence will probably be pretty epic, and Doomsday will not look like a cave troll, which is always good.
Yes, I can't wait. I should, but I forgot to check, which doesn't look very professional.
That's fine. Unprofessional is our livelihood. It'll be in the show notes. If you want to know when it's out, read the show notes. So that's that. Chris, what would you like to kneel before?
Can you guess? Can you guess what Chris is going to kneel before? If you've been listening to the previous podcast, you're going to know exactly what Chris is going to kneel before. The renewal of The Expanse. Hooray! Finally, it's happened. It's been confirmed. Woo!
Finally, it took 2 weeks.
Finally, I know. But it feels like it's been a lot longer. I've been sitting here worrying and thinking we could do sort of maybe 3-4 less episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and you could renew part of The Expanse. How about that? So I'm just very happy it's all been renewed, and I'm sure Kat of this podcast is still dancing. I don't think she's stopped since it's been announced. So yeah, definitely very happy.
Kat, well-known dancer. Yeah.
Yes, of course. I've seen her dance at Kaylee's.
I've seen her at a Kaylee, but I don't know if I saw her dancing.
That's true, but I think it was her partner that was letting her down.
Yeah, perhaps. Whoever that was. Yes, that's good news for people that like The Expanse. The fact it's been renewed, picked up by Amazon. Is that right?
Yes. Picked up by Amazon.
So that's good. What that'll mean for people that watch it on Netflix, who knows? But it might be an Amazon in the US, Netflix everywhere else sort of deal, or maybe Amazon will just get it and they'll just shove it on as they would. I guess all that's still to be ironed out.
Yeah,
Got a year to think about it.
I think it depends on all the deals that have been signed with Netflix and whether the production company can get out of that or not, or potentially Amazon have bought Netflix out of some of the distribution. I don't know.
Yeah,
like you say, it'll all be discovered within the year.
Yeah. And I am kneeling before the fact that Lucifer has 2 episodes that I didn't expect.
Hey!
Hey!
Yeah. There are 2 bonus episodes that they apparently filmed to be used in season 4, which is hilarious. And hilarious in the really not hilarious sense. But they are airing tonight as we record this, so the 28th of May. which means, as a reviewer, since I already would have 3 things on a Tuesday anyway, that gives me this 4th thing, which is impossible because I just can't do 4 things on one day. It's not doable. So for those that don't, in fact, they'll be published by then, but I'll do one on Tuesday and one on the Wednesday, and then that'll be it. But 2 episodes of Lucifer left. I think one of them is a Ella episode, which is, I like Ella, she's good. The second episode is a what if kind of alternate universe thing, and it has Neil Gaiman as the voice of God.
Yeah, that's actually literally the only thing I've actually heard about any of it. And for me, that's enough, actually.
Yeah, I'll see it. That's fine. I'm excited about that. I don't have to say goodbye to the show quite yet, just very soon. And apparently there are talks about another season. But honestly, I don't think it'll see the light of day, to be honest.
Yeah, but there's always talk of talks, though.
Yeah, but
I mean, because especially nowadays when the instant something gets cancelled, everyone calls for it to get picked up by Netflix.
Yeah, there's all that kind of stuff, and the hashtag Save Lucifer and hashtag Pick Up Lucifer, and it makes it look like there's some rampant Satanism going on Twitter, which makes me laugh.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some people out there who genuinely think that.
Yeah. Lucifer solving crimes. Yeah, it's nothing to do with it's the biblical Lucifer, but it's nothing to do with religious stuff. Unless, is following a TV show like a religion? Possibly. Depends on the TV show.
Yeah, well, I think if you're talking supernatural and teenage girls, then yes, it is.
Or like Star Trek and Me, that's another one. Yeah, that's more of a religion than any religion could ever be. So, yeah. So that's good. More Lucifer. The last of Lucifer. So drink it in, enjoy it, and be prepared for it never to come back, because not all of us are as lucky as Chris and Kat with The Expanse, are we?
Hey, you're just jealous.
Well, yeah.
That's the whole point of what he's saying.
Yeah, I'm very jealous. It's a distressing time for me.
You just need to get into The Expanse, and then you'll feel happier for us.
It's on the list, but there's so much out there, so much. I mean, now with Lucifer, there's one less, but
there you
so
go.
much.
See, look on the bright side. You've now got room for The Expanse.
Yeah, I might watch it this summer. Who knows?
Yeah, it is pretty spectacular.
So I hear, but we'll see. We'll see how the summer goes. Okay. So, Andrew, do you want to lead us in with Rise Against? What are you rising against?
Well, for my Rise Against, I'm going to be a little vague, because the thing I'm rising against is in reaction to a particular trope which you often see in action films, and which was very recently featured in a film still on general release, which some people may not have seen yet, and would not appreciate me spoiling it. Yeah, but the particular thing I wanted to mention is a trope referred to as women in refrigerators, which if you're unaware, refers to the female love interest of a male character being unceremoniously and often violently killed for the basically for the purpose of inducing man pain in the hero, and her death basically having nothing to do with her at all. And as mentioned, this is a thing that you see endlessly repeated throughout action movies, and it has always made me angry because it's so unimaginative and also more than a little misogynistic as well. And I just genuinely believe that if that's the only thing that you can think of to motivate your hero to get up and start doing all the killing you want him to do, then you should have a long and hard look at your own imagination.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you see it all the time. It's such a cliche motivation. It's up there with revenge. Because they're easy motivations to do. I want to kill this guy because he killed this person that's close to me. Or so revenge comes into that, I suppose, actually, because it is. It's lazy. It's done too often, and it wouldn't be the only recent release, I would imagine, that would include that specific trope. It wouldn't be the last either. whatever this.
Sadly, no.
It is something that you kind of see too often, especially once you're made aware of it. As a thing, you start sort of thinking back films in your head. You're like, yeah, it's always the girlfriend or the wife or the daughter that sort of gets kidnapped or tortured or killed to cause the motivation. And yeah, it is something that I think you see a bit too often. And it'd be interesting to see stuff done a little bit differently.
It's interesting you talk about the whole once it's pointed out to you. I remember the first time, but I don't remember the specific first time. I remember how it coloured my viewing after people pointed out the Bechdel Test to me. You know, that test that you can, in a given scene, you can have two female characters in a scene not talking about a man. And how many things fail that? It's ridiculous. You know, and a show that we're not going to be talking about today, but Supergirl passes it routinely. Buffy used to pass it routinely as well. You know, the women in those shows, or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that we talked about recently, that you know, that would frequently have scenes where women have other things to talk about, and it's so weird how few things still pass that test, even with female central characters.
Well, I've always been faintly amused by the origin of that, which was actually in a webcomic. Which I think was called Dykes to Watch Out For, and like the creator of that is a woman named Alison Bechdel, like hence the name of it. Yeah. And when the two characters were discussing this in the comic, the example of a film that passes it she comes up with is Alien. As it points out, yes, yeah, but it does have two women in it who talk about something other than man. They talk about the alien,
which may or may not be a man.
Well, I think given the xenomorphs' reproductive method and life cycle, I think biological gender that doesn't apply to it.
Yeah. I think what we're saying is we'll let you check.
Yeah, that's all right. I think I'll stay away from xenomorphs. Yeah, that was a really good one. Yeah, it really sucks. I think representation is getting better in things in general, but you still get these kind of lazy things, as you say, in action films, where I suppose a lot of people see them as a bit of disposable fluff anyway. So, you know, you killed my whatever, you know, but can't all be John Wick who's avenging his dog. That was a slight twist on the genre, I suppose. Slight twist on the trope.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Yeah, I mean, because purely on account of it only being in the last few years that I'd ever actually had a dog, and prior to that, I never would have understood that properly. The thing is, they're having a friendly and playful boxer named Igor for numerous years. I do know that if anybody ever hurt him, I would cut them new orifices.
That was quite a violent admission for the first time on the podcast. Nobody hurt Andrew's dog, because that's what happens, apparently. Confessions of a dog owner. Chris, what are you rising against?
Okay, here's a random one for a rise against. We've had quite a serious one from Andrew, but still one that narks me quite a lot, and I was thinking about it the other night as I sat in my cinema seat, which is adverts for the cinema when I am sitting in a cinema. So I'm sitting there and I've paid my £12 whatever to sit in a cinema seat, and then I watch 15 minutes of adverts which are normally dedicated, or 15 minutes worth of the adverts are dedicated to telling me that I should go to the cinema. And I can't stand the fact that I'm sitting there watching something advertising the thing I am already doing. It's like when you see adverts on websites going, you should try out this, and I'm like, I already am, but I can't tell you that. Whereas the cinema knows that I have paid to be in the cinema, I'm seeing it. So they can advertise something else. They'd be better using that time going, fresh air? Have you been outside recently? Maybe you shouldn't be in here so often. Are you tired of seeing this? Yeah, that means you need to go outside right now. Get some sunlight. Yeah, that would be better for the cinema.
Yeah, it's super annoying. It's all specifically in IMAX as well. Certainly in the IMAX here, you get 2 adverts for IMAX when you're already in an IMAX screen. 2. 2 bloody adverts for IMAX. Or when they're trying to tell me to use 4DX when I will never, ever use that again.
See, I've still not used it yet.
You have to use it once, otherwise you can't complain about it.
All right, okay.
Yeah. That's gonna be my plan. Yes. I mean, I will go once for the experience. So then any opinions I have on the concept are immediately validated.
That's a good one. Yeah. Therefore, you can hate it with conviction because you're righteous because you've been through it. You can't just dislike something that you might not like.
Yes, and also you can better articulate why you hate it as well.
Indeed. Yeah. Advertising narks me in the cinema in general because it adds half an hour to every experience of the cinema. I'm not one of those people that likes to saunter in 25 minutes late because then you have the anxiety of someone might be in my seat or I need to fight past people to get to my seat and all that. So I'm generally there while the adverts are on, and it's the half an hour. You know, that turns a 2.5 hour film into a 3 hour film in the case of Infinity War, or it turns a 3 hour film into a 3.5 hour film in the case of The Hobbit. So, yeah, stop it. Cut it down.
Especially when it's adverts for yourself.
Yes.
That's the bit you could cut down. I understand the need to take the paid for commercials in order to keep more of our screens open, and we're all for proper cinema. Yeah. But it's the fact that you're spending most of that time advertising the fact that you can come to the cinema to watch film. We don't need that.
Totally sucks.
Go back to advertising the fact that you've got popcorn in the foyer. Because we didn't notice that on the way past. Yeah, the film's about to begin. Why don't you leave and come back in a minute? We're totally not hinting that you've got enough time to leave, but there's probably about 15 minutes that you could spend queuing for popcorn. Yeah. Come back and you won't have missed a thing, we promise.
Don't worry, our staff are really slow, so we're guaranteed it'll take at least 20 minutes. Yeah, that is an annoying one. Good one to rise against. I think a lot of our listeners will feel that pain. I am rising against the fact that the Boba Fett movie is happening and now has a director. And why is this happening? I mean, are we just going to get spin-off Star Wars stories for every bloody thing? You know, the droid that blows up before Owen picks R2-D2. You know, is that getting its own film next? Might as well.
Oh, please.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me.
Boba Fett to me is a really uninteresting character. I know a lot of fans of Star Wars really like him because of expanded universe stuff, or just because they think he looks cool. But just because I think he might, well, his costume is quite distinctive. I don't think there's a film there. I don't need a film. I know he's already a stupid clone of his dad that ages normally. Do we need this? Do we need this? What is happening to Star Wars? Why are we getting all this?
Because Disney paid $4 billion for it, and they're determined to get their money's worth.
Well, they've made all that money back and then some. I think they could. I think these anthology films are a good idea, but I also think that they should be giving us something else.
Well, you have got, you know, they have commissioned Rian Johnson to sort of do his little standalone trilogy, which is off doing something different, as has been bracketed.
Next trilogy after the main trilogy wraps up, though. Like.
Yeah, but it is going to be with different characters and set somewhere different, and we don't know what time frame it's going to be in or anything like that. So they are promising to give us something new, but I do agree with you that do we need an origin story for absolutely every character? That being said, though, I didn't mind Solo when I saw it recently. I thought it was alright as a film. I don't think it was the best Star Wars film I've ever seen. I don't think it's the worst Star Wars film I've ever seen. I quite liked it, in a way. But I do have this feeling that they're kind of looking back in the old films and going, oh, do you think we could get a solo story out of that character? You think we could get a little standalone flick out of that one? You know. So I don't know. I'm kind of for and against at the same time.
Cantina Band, the movie, it's going to be like just for the Cantina Band. And it turns out they're not called the Cantina Band because they don't just play in cantinas. They're called like something, I don't know.
No, you've got to find the origin of them becoming a cantina band. They started as a stadium rock act, and then they migrated to cantinas when they found their true voice.
Yeah, or just became really unsuccessful, and that's where they could get gigs. I don't know, but we don't need this stuff. You know, it's starting to get to holiday special type levels of silliness now, with side characters getting loads to do. And, I mean, I'm really hoping we don't get a Chewbacca solo movie because I couldn't take 2 hours of just growling. If you haven't seen the holiday special, there's about half an hour of Wookiees growling at each other. It's dreadful.
If you haven't seen the holiday special, don't.
just don't watch it. It's horrible. So that's that. I'm against pointless Star Wars movies, and Solo I thought was okay at the time, but the more distance I get from it, and this is only a few days, the more forgettable it is, the more of it just leaves me. There's nothing about it that just stands out for me. There might be a podcast on that, don't know, maybe next week we'll discuss it in more detail, but I may have to watch it again so I remember some detail.
I do want to see it a second time, just to sort of look at stuff in more detail, because you're still, you sort of get carried away with films when you see them the first time round. I think the second time you can have a more analytical look.
Yeah. And when you have monthly subscriptions to cinemas, it's a lot easier.
Today's podcast was brought to you by monthly subscriptions to cinema.
Yes, have you got your unlimited card yet?
Or any other card from any other cinema?
None of these people are sponsoring us, so we're not.
Yeah, none of them are paid. Meanwhile, Doughnuts 24/7 is our subscription service, which is now available.
Doughnuts 24/7.
Visit neilbeforeblog.co.uk/doughnuts.
And that would take you anywhere.
Yep. We'll go into the abyss.
Yeah, it'll just take you to the homepage probably, I think.
Alright, okay.
I'll try it
fair
later,
enough.
see what happens. Yeah.
Please just make it a picture of some donuts.
I'll just create a page. Okay, so feature over. Some good discussion points there, people. Well done. We've justified ourselves keeping it going once again. Now on to the main event. We're here to talk about The Flash Season 4, which has thankfully recently finished. I suppose that's fitting as my spoiler-free thought. Thank God it's finished. That was possibly more of a slog than last season for me. I thought it was tired and boring and really frustrating at points and just not good television. What happened? This is a question asked frequently when it comes to The Flash. What happened?
I think it was writers abandoning ship, but I don't know. I would need to actually look back at the writers of different episodes and see when writers shifted, if they did. Because it just seems tonally some bits have changed and they've sort of driven themselves down a bit of a cul-de-sac and they're trying to navigate their way out, but they keep sort of crashing into houses on their way along the street. I just can't work out, really. I mean, there are some bits in there that you go, oh, that was good, but it's so outweighed by some of the other stuff that you kind of end up sitting there thinking, what have they done?
Yeah, there's the odd accidental good episode, and then it just goes back to normal shortly afterwards.
Yeah, well, I think part of it was the attempt, to do something a little bit different, but not actually thinking it through before they started, and then they ended up having to make it up as they went along, which just made it increasingly worse and tedious, and getting to the point where I actively resented having to sit down and watch it just so I could get through the thing.
Those that ask, if you don't like this show, why do you watch it? The reason for me is it's set in the same universe as other shows I like, and I'll feel like I'm missing something if I don't.
A completionist.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need an hour 20's worth of content at least once a year, so
it's things we do to bring you conversation about things that we don't like. Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to listen to this otherwise. Aren't you grateful now?
Yes, a begrudged sense of obligation and the desire to have enough information to articulate exactly everything that is wrong with it.
It's the 4DX thing all over again.
Yeah.
You've got to watch it to enable you to slag it off and for your views to be valid.
That's it. Yeah. So is that us done with our spoiler-free thoughts? Do we want to just go into the spoiler force and just lay into this thing?
Yeah, spoiler force away.
How about it?
Yeah, we're safe. Okay, we're either in or out of the spoiler force. Don't know, I don't think anybody else knows or even cares. But
are we in our own pocket dimension? Is that where we are?
I don't know, we're somewhere.
Yeah, I guess one of apparently many pocket dimensions, which wasn't ever mentioned previously.
Yeah, all these pocket dimensions. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. The mid-season was when we last talked about this. We talked a bit about everything leading up to the mid-season. So we started off with the trial. Barry was on trial, much like Oliver was on trial much later in his own season. And the trial itself was... Well, I've almost forgotten it. But there was stuff that went on, stuff that was said. They called Barry's character into question because he's never around. Despite the fact that he could have easily gotten out of this whole thing by just moving the body, because he knows he didn't kill DeVoe, and trying to prove it otherwise seemed pointless. The trial itself, I don't know, it was alright in parts.
Yeah, well, I generally find trial episodes in TV shows just to be a little frustrating. Just because it seems like it doesn't matter what evidence is given by either side. There's a predetermined verdict, and it becomes abundantly clear very, very quickly exactly which way it's going to go. And then afterwards, it just becomes a matter of waiting to get there.
Yeah, I mean, not to talk about Arrow too much, but I think they did it well with kind of the curveballs they kept throwing at the audience until the end. But yeah, it just felt like it was a bit of a foregone conclusion. It did feel inevitable that Barry would wind up in prison, because sometimes it's fun to see the worst possible eventuality, and then, you have Team Flash operating without Flash for a little while. Even though, he's so fast he could come and go before anyone notices he's gone, but let's get into that later.
Yes.
I don't know, you got to see Cecile do something other than stand around, which was useful. Because that's a lot of what she does. But and actually getting to see her do her own job, do what the character is created to do, that was good.
Yeah, well, I think with Cecile there was there was the risk of her just turning into another Wally, like of a character that they introduced, and they thought it'd be a really good idea having them there, but only afterwards did they realise they didn't actually know what to do with her.
Yeah. And
we've got 2 episodes worth of story, and then we've got nothing else that we can give them after that.
Yeah, and is there not some form of conflict of interest with her representing Barry, given that she's his surrogate dad's girlfriend? Yeah,
I did think that, but then I dismissed it, like so many other things I have throughout this series.
It's just TV.
So I just stopped caring.
Stopped caring. Yeah.
It is one of those things that when TV shows try and do trials, it's like, unless they are programs that were set up to do trials and lawyers and all that sort of stuff, it just doesn't work, because they've not got the right writers that actually know the system in and out. So they just throw around bits of legal terminology that they've looked up, and a couple of people shouting objection every once in a while, and then they go, there you go, trial. And like you say, of course there's a predetermined outcome to it. So they've got to write around going, well, of course they don't object at this point, and let's just say that bit's crooked, and yeah, that bit of flimsy evidence comes in, and the jury says what we want them to say, because that's the way it works. So it's never particularly pleasing when they do it, and there's very few that are written well. Like you said, Craig, Arrow did it slightly differently. I still had issues with the one in Arrow, but this one was, very well, you know where this is going.
Yeah, well, I think what was interesting about the Arrow trial was the fact that Oliver actually was guilty of what he was being charged with, which actually makes quite a difference in these things.
Yeah, it was in Arrow. Everyone, as we said on the previous podcast, everyone was lying under oath routinely. And the Flash, there was some honesty there. I mean, there was some avoiding of the subject of where does Barry go when he's not at work. And things like that. But I'm surprised that no one mentions all the stuff he seems to own, thanks to Harrison Wells. Any of that. But I don't know, it's just one of those things that sits in the background, is never addressed. Presumably he's paying Cisco and Caitlin a salary out of the money that he's inherited, but he still wants to work as a CSI and make probably far less money than he cares about at this point. I don't know.
Well, then they would need to change the opening titles. It would be really expensive, so just keep it.
And in all these years, he's never fixed the roof. It's still shot to hell. The trial did lead to him being in prison for a few episodes, which I have mixed feelings on. I quite liked it. He got given his dad's cell, and he saw his dad scrawling on the wall, and the fact he made a friend inside, who he just took to China, which was weird. Considering the whole point of it being in there was, I'm not circumventing the system that I run around at night trying to uphold, but I'm just going to let this guy out of prison, even though he is innocent apparently, but I'm innocent too, and I'm in here. So that was strange. I didn't understand that choice at all.
Yeah, well, I don't think there was much more to understand about it. It might have been him getting this guy out of prison like as a sort of way of saving his dad, because this guy was in prison, the closest connection that he still has to his father. And after finding at the end this guy was wrongfully imprisoned, then doing right by him was a way of making him feel like his father would have been proud of him. But if that actually were the case, it's not something which was actually expressed in any way.
No.
Yeah, that's just like my sort of headcanon thing about it.
It existed to get him caught on camera, so that the next part of the plot could happen.
Yes, that makes more sense.
Yeah, that camera that he should have been faster than.
Yeah, because seeing as he can apparently run to the other side of the planet and back again in a space of 2.5 seconds.
The prison arc did throw out some problems, such as we have to see a lot more of Ralph learning identical lessons every single week. He just learns, oh, I should be more heroic and I should trust people more. And at the end of every week, he's learned this lesson, and then and then at the start of the next week, he's learning it all over again. And you got to see that in force while Barry was in prison.
Okay, I'm probably going against the party line here, but I actually quite liked Ralph.
Oh my god.
We found the one.
Yeah, well, it's just because I found him to be quite a welcome contrast to the rest of Team Flash, because he thinks and acts in a way different from the rest of the team. It gives a bit more variety in reactions to various situations. Though I will concede that the repetition of his character development, or lack thereof, was a bit of an issue. But I still actually enjoyed his presence, perhaps more than I was supposed to.
Well, no, I think you were supposed to like him. I think it had the opposite effect on me and Chris, as he suggested.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't a huge Dibney fan. I've got to be honest. There was a lot of. I could see that he was written as a bit of a comic relief in comparison to everything else that was going on. Maybe as like an answer to the darkness that had happened in the last season. They're like, well, we need to brighten up the darkness. So when the characters are having dark moments and things, we'll have this little bit of comic relief character. He can be a bit, a bit off. He can be stealing stuff in the background and riffing on people and making jokes and doing all that. Meanwhile, I was like, oh, he's just an annoying distraction in the background, and that's what he ended up being to me. And the fact that he has managed to survive into another season disappoints me greatly. But you know what? If you liked him, that's for you. And maybe he'll be better written in the next bit, because he did get a bit of development and he did wear off a little bit in the end. They did get rid of some of the edges that I was a bit fed up. Like Craig said, it's the same lessons coming out week after week after week, though it did seem that it was written that he would only swap round in the episode where he suddenly gets devoured, whatever we want to call that, zooped by the machine. So yeah, I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Well, there was one particular moment I really liked was him. I think it was when Barry was on trial, or around that general time, was when Joe was thinking about planting evidence in DeVoe's house, and and Ralph basically explaining to him was like, okay, you do this. This is what is going to happen to you, because with it being essentially exactly what happened to him.
Yeah.
Because that was how he started out by doing something bad that he thought was the right thing, and as a result of that, just gave up on trying to do the right thing, even if it was in the wrong way.
Yeah, stuff like that was good, and I liked that there was little nuggets of that, and there'd be occasional scenes where I would be like, oh yeah, Ralph's quite a thoughtful guy. I can sort of relate to, well, not relate to him, but I can understand where he's coming from in this moment. And then the next scene, he'd be back to, referring to Caitlin by her measurements, for example. And oh god, I get the whole we want someone who can mix things up, who's a bit different to the rest of the team. I get that on a conceptual level, but I think the execution was off because they just went too far the other way. He's like a more annoying Ray Palmer, basically, And I don't think it's a reflection on the actor who's playing him, because I think Hartley Sawyer is a really talented guy, and you could sort of see what they were trying to do with him. And in theory, every week he's supposed to learn something else about heroics, and then they build on that the next week. But the writers just aren't clever enough, and they just kept doing the whole, as I said, the same lesson week on week on week on week until he died. And the episode he dies is the only one where he seems to learn anything that might stick. But the only reason it might stick is because you don't see him again until the last episode.
Sorry, Disney.
I still love you.
The other thing that annoys me about that is they had a sidekick character that would have been ideally placed to be learning what it's like to be without Barry, and his name was Wally West, and he was in the show this season. He'd left at this point, though, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Which.
Though I don't think they actually bothered explaining what happened to him until he turned up in that episode of Legends.
Yeah. He's just off in China or something. They would occasionally mention, where's Wally? And they'd be like, I don't know. Or, he's away here. Just basically, he's not here, but there's certain points where it's like, this is where you need Wally to be around. And imagine, episodes like where Barry's in prison are a gift for a character like that, who has to take what he's learned and apply it to to working in the field by himself. But the problem with that is, you shouldn't have Ralph out there anyway doing all the work, and the fact that he's point man for the team is ridiculous because you have Cisco, who can open breaches under people's feet and knock them into prison. So, where's the problem?
Very true. You do think that what that character stole in a way is what would have been a gain to maybe Cisco or even Caitlin, with Ralph being the sort of backing to one of them, and then they use it as almost a builder for Iris as well.
Yeah, her as the boss. It didn't fit for me either. It's another one of those, as Andrew says, we've got this character, what do we do with her? So she sits there barking orders at people in the control room, or the Cortex, I think it's called. And that's about it. There was the point where Ralph accused her of doing nothing, which I thought was quite funny. And then she went out in the field and almost got herself killed. But good job.
She does get the episode where she has Barry's powers for a day, though.
Yeah, that was actually an okay episode because it did address the whole "I feel useless on this team sometimes" problem.
Well, I think that considering that she spent pretty much the entire series from day one trying to boss everyone around, then at some point the writers just decided to just dump her in the control room. So they may as well have her do it for the actual team.
Yeah, but I don't get what gives her the authority to control the team, to lead the team. And you had the episode where it was Ralph and Cisco were at each other's throats, basically, because they were frustrated because they didn't know what to do because Barry wasn't around. And it's like, this isn't Cisco. Cisco is a man of action. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing it long enough. Why is he suddenly having issues? It's like, oh wait, because the writers need to have Iris do something important. They just constantly forget what these characters are supposed to be in order to further whatever plot they want to tell, and it's really tiresome. Or is it Cisco and Harry that are sniping each other? Cisco and someone are sniping each other.
No, I think you're right. I think it's a kind of a bit of they're all sniping. But like you say, it's this team which normally manages to survive without Barry for a couple of episodes, or should be able to survive without Barry for a couple of episodes, that just suddenly falls to pieces. And you're like, well, you're sort of, up until this point, they've been well-defined characters that can run off and do stuff on their own. You know, how often Cisco sort of run off to his lab to work on something to solve a problem, and then sort of pops up with it at the convenient moment later. It's like, these are people that can sort of run off and handle themselves, or work together, or ask for help. But it is one of those, well, we need this conveniently to be dysfunctional so that the villain can get away with murder, you know?
Yeah. It's kind of... It's just weak storytelling, because you have a group of characters, and what the writers, I suppose, go into an episode thinking is, by the end of this episode, we want Iris to be in charge of the team in a way that helps them work better as a team. And in order to do that, they have to just ignore everything they've established about everyone who's around. I think it was Harry that gave her the pep talk about, you know, here's how you should lead the team. But yeah, this is all stuff that A, she should know, and B, Harry shouldn't really care about. And everyone else should know it too. So I always feel like Cisco's their kind of de facto team leader when Barry's not around. Or he should be.
Definitely in the way the dynamic's written at the moment, it should be Cisco. I think for it to be something different, you know, maybe Caitlin, but yeah, Cisco seems to come across as the de facto sort of substitute teacher, for want of a better word.
Yeah. Although when you talk about the Iris Gains Powers episode, I actually quite like that as an episode, because I don't think that Iris is a bad character, and I think she gets a bad rap from a lot of fans because of, well, basically because of how she's written most of the time. So, I mean, I was giving her a hard time in first season 1, you know, when she had that kind of princess complex. And she still kind of has that to a degree, but she's also a bit more selfless than she used to be. So I think that episode kind of shows that that level of empathy that she does have. Like, she wants to comfort Barry, who's lost his powers, and she's got them. And obviously, no one's under any illusions about how temporary it's going to be, because it's not like, we could be like this for the rest of our lives. It's like, no, we just have to find this guy, and then he can, you know, fix it. But until then, what you've got is you've got an inexperienced speedster, and then you've got Barry, who's an experienced speedster, but is unable to teach that. And I feel like that's a consistent theme with him as well. Like, anytime he has to teach someone how to do something, he's really rubbish at it.
Yeah, the sort of teaching Caitlin and Cisco how to work in the Speed Force is a good sort of episode of that. How to use their speed, and he just gets frustrated on try number 1, and then that's it.
I think that has pretty much defined Barry for this entire season. Where either every decision he makes is wrong, or whenever he tries to do something which would have some benefit in long run, he just gives up before he's barely even tried.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those sort of poor decisions, and I don't know if it's because we've got the benefit of seeing other bits of the machine in action. But when you look at stuff like Barry being found with a dead body in his apartment, you're sitting there going, use the Speed Force, get the body out your apartment, he's standing there. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure if he had done that, the plot would have said, well, DeVoe's thought of that and done a ... to still frame Barry. But you're still thinking, well, surely he would. Or is it just sort of his naivety that the system's totally not crooked and it's totally not going... I'm not going to be found guilty because there'll be no evidence that's going to tie me to this. You know, there's a lot of decisions like that where you're sitting going, there's a way around this. Also, the way they introduce other options that he could have had. This whole new sort of Speed Force thing that he can do where he can slow time down to nothing. Almost is like a power level that is just unbelievably insane.
That was like a complete game-breaking kind of power.
It breaks the show. It does completely.
It's one of those bits that it's like, even if you go, okay, well, he had to think on his feet in this particular moment. In my head, I'm now going, well, he can totally now just pause time, go for a walk, have a bit of lunch, write down some notes, take a couple of people out for a consultation session, go to therapy, go back and solve the situation. He's just got all the time in the world now. So there's no like, oh, he's rushing too fast to save this person or stop this bullet or choose who's going to live and who's going to die. He's got all the time in the world.
Well, I mean, it struck me throughout. I think I mentioned in my reviews, like, here's why Barry shouldn't have had any problems with this metahuman, because because he could just do this and then fix it before they even knew what had happened. So, but one point where it really struck me was when he was grieving over Ralph's death. So, he was out of sorts that week, and rightly so, because someone had died under his watch. Fair enough. And you had the bit where Leo, always a welcome addition, one of my favourite episodes of the season, just because Leo snorts in it, comes up to him and says, you need time to process this. And he says, we don't have any time. And he's like, make time. And it's like, freeze time, have a think. Could you imagine how it would have been like, yeah, we're all really upset about this. And it's like, yeah, I froze time earlier, I'm now fine. I've spent weeks thinking about this, I'm alright. I've processed it, and it's almost like that Family Guy episode where Brian gets the super speed and he's like, I'm going to go to China to check if they've cured it. And he comes back, he's like, they haven't. And, it could be as quick as that for other people. And I would almost like to see that, where it's, okay, I'm going to go do this. And he comes back and it's like, I thought you were going to do this. And it's like, no, I've been. It was a dead end. But I think the whole process and his grief thing, he could have, like, that would have been quite cool, actually, if maybe the episode had opened with him just sitting in flash time while everyone around him was just completely frozen, as he's, like, running around and doing something to figure out his emotional issues. And they could have used it in clever ways like that, but ultimately it was just this. It was a great episode, probably one of the best they've ever done, but it broke the show completely. Now there's no excuse for Barry having problems with anything ever again.
I did like the episode where it was introduced, the sort of ticking clock aspect of, we've got to solve this bomb and we can only pull people in for a certain amount of time, and once you've used them once, that's it, you can't use them again. Yeah. I did like that aspect. It's one of these power creep things that I've mentioned on other podcasts. I think about Flash again and other shows, where it's like, once you increase the power level of your hero to a certain point, you've got to go, whoa, but he's now got no problems. It's like, what do we throw against them now? And without sort of retconning and doing, I've used that too much and now my brain can't handle it for long enough until we need to use that again to get us out of predicament, is a bit annoying. And then, because it's one of these things that you go, okay, you've got multiple speedsters that you can call on already, which is quite a power creep. You've got different dimensions of people. You can go to Supergirl if you want. There's so many options out there now that it makes it difficult for them to come up with a credible villain. And then once they come up with a credible villain, it makes it very difficult for them to then dismantle them to the point where they're defeatable, because you've got to build your villain up to be more powerful than your hero. And if your hero is already able to freeze time and just walk about uninhibited for a whole episode, then it makes it almost impossible.
Definitely, yeah. Flash time is just too much. It just can't be countered. And at least in the first episode it was introduced, you had this whole, alright, I can only talk to people when I touch them, and then even then it's only for a few seconds before they just get worn out. And then you had the penultimate episode of the season where it's like, Speed Force aura and all this nonsense. Now I don't even have to touch you. I just have to touch you, and then I can let you go, and you can cut about at this speed for apparently a near infinite amount of time, relatively speaking. So they removed the limitation it had right away, which it's like, why aren't you just using this all the time now? And that's that bit where you were talking about, where they tried it once and it didn't work, and Barry went on a strop. Yeah.
But at that point, if they'd went, oh, this doesn't work, I'd have been like, thank God for that. It's like, yeah, okay, it doesn't work. Great, you tried it and you've just written that one off. Thank God, because in future episodes, I now know that's not on the cards. However, now you're like, oh, you can just zip everyone into flash time. Problem solved. Okay, end of episode. Credit roll. You know, it's going to be several 5-minute episodes that are coming up because there's not going to be much to do. It's all going to be fixed.
Although the flash time episode was, like I said, one of the best.
That's the annoying thing. As much as I want to completely diss it, it's like the episode where they introduced it was quite neat. The problem is that now that it's introduced, it's very hard to put that back in the box without going, oh, it was due to his proximity to the bomb or something like that.
Yeah, and that's part of what's frustrating about it. It's just because it would have been so straightforward, like to come up with a plausible reason why he couldn't use it every single time, but they just haven't bothered.
It doesn't.
It is when you see the sort of bullets flying past him kind of thing, and you're going, well, you can move those bullets, you can get that person out the way of those bullets, but it doesn't happen. The person still gets shot in the arm, and you're going, oh, come on. It's like, there's little bits like that annoy me, and I suppose it's a problem that they've written themselves into, and it's very difficult for them to write their way out of it without sort of having to go, okay, Barry's losing his speed for some reason, which is an episode that we've definitely seen before, you know, but something to bring the power level back down might be in order, I think.
Yeah, well, they followed that episode up with the Iris Gets Powers episode, which was good because they avoided the problem for 1 week, because it's conceivable that Iris can't go that fast because she just doesn't know what's involved in doing it. And they had a bit of a limitation once again in the episode itself, because you had Barry getting more and more exhausted as the episode went on, but still, relatively speaking, I mean, the whole episode technically takes place over fractions of a second pretty much, but from Barry's perspective it's a while, you know, it's at least 42 minutes or something, you know, like as far as he's concerned. So it's not as if I become really tired really quickly when using flash time. It's like I become really tired kind of over a short period of time, but still plenty of time to do stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, they write in there that it's just something that he's learned recently or something that he's been practicing and he's got good at, and fair enough. It's just, it's a bit too of a power creep for me. I think it's just pushing it a bit, and like I say, it's a dangerous thing to have sitting about now in the toolbox.
Well, Jesse's also that fast, and so is Jay, even though it takes a toll on him much quicker because he's older. It's just a problem. They may have delivered one of the best episodes they've ever delivered, but it's still a problem.
Like I say, if they could have written it that, okay, we've introduced this, it only worked because of his proximity to the radiation of the bomb about to go off, and that's given him like an extra speed force boost. Write some sciencey mumbo jumbo that someone throws at a board later on to say, oh, that's the only reason he was able to do it at this particular time, and we can't replicate it easily using a thingamajig, whatchamacallit, that Cisco creates. You know, or we only can, but it uses this thing that's very hard to get a hold of, so we can't use it every single week to solve our problem. Whereas the way they've written it is, okay, it takes a toll on Barry, and the chances are he can't do it all the time because, yes, eventually it'll build up and it'll knacker him out, but he's not going to be using it every week because it's, you know, we're not seeing a villain attacking him every 5 seconds when we see this. There's gaps in between these episodes in the real world. So you presume that he'd have time to rest afterwards.
Yeah, or at the very least, you could have something like, but after he uses it, he ends up drawing so much power from the Speed Force, then for some time afterwards he is not able to use his speed. Which would. So you could have him try to use it again in one episode, and then in the next one find that he's not able to run fast at all.
Exactly, that's a good kind of thing.
Yeah, I think, giving some kind of justification like that is so straightforward, but it's just lazy and frustrating that they haven't.
It's like when Supergirl uses the solar flare ability, which in the show is just heat vision, but a lot of heat vision, and yeah, she loses her powers for like a day.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, that's easy enough. Or yeah, it takes him literally weeks, or takes weeks for the Speed Force to recover, and therefore he can only run like marginally fast for a few weeks or something. Yeah. Yeah, there's easy ways around that. I mean, remember when he could only travel through time when it was really when it was a situation that was just causing him all sorts of grief emotionally. You know, he just accidentally did it because he felt the urgency of the situation, got his adrenaline spiking, and he just went, accidentally travelled through time. Remember when he did that? So now he can just run back in time whenever he feels like it. So yeah, they've made him too powerful, and I don't know how you write around that now, other than having other speedsters, which we know is kind of tiresome now.
Yeah. Which I think was part of the reason why they brought in DeVoe in the first place.
Yeah.
Was to try a non-speedster villain.
Yeah, and DeVoe is all sorts of problematic because the writers are trying to write the smartest man alive, but they're not smart enough to write the smartest man alive. So you end up getting these half-baked explanations like, you wouldn't realise even if I told you. You know, I'm so smart that I'm operating on a level you can't possibly comprehend. It's like, alright, okay. So, you don't know either then. Yeah. My plan is so clever that you will never see it coming.
And part of me thinks that they didn't know what his end game plan actually was partway through this season.
Oh, they pulled it out their arse.
I kind of have the feeling that satellites and a mind ray to make people forget was not the original DeVoe plan. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. If there had been maybe some hints or some subtlety later on, and maybe someone in the comments below will point out a scene where there's designs for the satellite in the background or something. But I am definitely not going to go and watch back through the season to spot them myself. Feel free to fans, off you go.
Most of this series has just generally frustrated to me in one degree or another, but the episode when the most whole plan actually was revealed, and that's the first time that in a long time where I have actually hated something while watching it. I mean, so we're expected to accept that this is the guy who is capable of manipulating events to create this dark matter explosion to create a dozen metahumans so he can siphon his powers. Yes, and predicting people's reactions like in a massive chain of events, like months and months in advance. Yet he somehow. Without all this, he's somehow unable to pull off a robbery of a random tech installation. Like every random C-grade villain does it. Does it in a cold open of an episode when they want to kill 5 minutes for heroes to take down. And that's just. Oh God!
But why did he wait? Why did he wait? That's what I don't get.
That's
it's like
another thing, yes.
Conveniently the same episode that the heroes go, we know what he needs. He would need this computer. He would need this supercomputer. And DeVoe's like, oh God, they've worked out I need the supercomputer. Better pick that up today. It's like instead of like a few months ago when it finally got installed or anything like that. It's like, yeah, I'll just get that now. There's a whole element of that sort of smartest man alive thing that makes you go, okay, you need to work on the smartest man a little bit. A lot of these plan is that, I've calculated, the chance of this happening and the chance of this being the following event from that chance thing, and this thing that you would never have thought of before is now definitely I'm thinking about that, and I've taken into account people from other universes just popping by chance as well. So not only am I calculating the odds of what's going on in this universe, but I'm also calculating the odds of the chance of the people that are coming over from the others. Now you go, okay, fair enough, I will take that if he's the smartest man alive. But why do so many stupid things if you're the smartest man?
And he also forgot to factor in that people have feelings.
Yes, but that was his downfall. you understand? Yes, because he doesn't get emotion. Because he can't understand it, because he's just pure intellect, and some other guff like that.
Yeah, but psychology is an area of science, and in theory you should understand all of it. But yeah, it's just the thing is, if you look at a show like Sherlock or Doctor Who, the protagonist in those shows is smarter than the audience and is smarter than the writers, but you can't write that because you're not that smart. So what they do instead is they make the world revolve around them. So the things they do within that world reflects how intelligent they are. So that's what they really needed to do with Defoe. So it needed to be, this is the plan, we can see it building up in the background, and there should have been some moment roughly in the, maybe 2-3 episodes before the end where it all came together and it was, oh my god, this is what everything means here, and you see the pieces fall into place, but that never happens because the whole anti-technology nonsense that came out of absolute nowhere. When Defoe was introduced, he was a man who was dying, and he was a desperate man who was dying, who was smart enough, he was intelligent enough to do everything except stop himself from dying because his intelligence was actually killing him. That was his original motivation. And for some reason it changed into, I hate technology and think it's a blight on the world, so I'm going to make everyone too stupid to use it. What?
I will re-educate them using my satellite, which I'm also against because it's technology.
Yes. All technology is evil, except the technology I'm using. That's totally fine.
Yeah, that's fine. We can keep that one. I mean, and the ultimate Defoe mistake and thing that just constantly wound me up is, I'm not going to kill you yet, Mr. Allen. I will do it later. And you're going, well, why are you keeping him alive? Well, I'm keeping you alive for reasons. And then we find out at the end the reason is because he has predicted that they are going to use Barry in the chair, helped by his wife that he didn't know was going to leave, to use the mind-reading pregnant woman to transport Barry into his head, and at that point he would have control of Barry as well, instead of just using the mind gun thing. I don't get why not use the mind Suki machine on Barry. It's like, okay, I'm going to wait until this convoluted thing happens and then I'm going to get Barry. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, he defeated me. Okay, I'm dead.
He could have inhabited Barry's body months ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then,
but instead he went full on Dr. Evil.
Yeah, and why did he need those specific metahuman powers? Is it so he could perform certain heists? Because he could have done that just by thinking about it and hiring goons like anybody else.
Well, the one-liner that you got was that he had picked specific powers in order to defeat anyone that Barry would team up with to stop him.
Yes, and that was the only justification.
Throwaway liner that we got, and you could kind of see some of the powers building. There were some very random ones, like the power of luck, that you're like, why did he need the power of luck? Where did that come from?
Things, and also, and despite having that luck power, it didn't seem to stop some random security guard stumbling across them when they went to steal satellites.
Yeah.
That's the one.
And the way those powers were used, I mean, when it got to the point, it wasn't even before he had them all. It wasn't even when he had them all. It was before that point where it's like, this guy's undefeatable. He can control technology, he can control gravity, he can shrink things. Where is the opposition to that now? He can read minds, he can control minds. I mean, when you look at those powers combined, it's just, why isn't he just winning immediately? Like, why is he wasting his time just cutting about doing stuff? Because he could just win instantly. I mean, it takes until the last episode where he just wanders into Star Labs and, takes control of all their tech and stuff. Like, could have done that a long time before that.
Oh, he could have heisted their dark matter really quickly and then destroyed Star Labs and just got out at that point.
Yeah, and he had his pocket dimension that allowed instantaneous travel from place to place, so as advantages go, he was undefeatable.
Definitely. I mean, some of the powers you're like, okay, he needed the pocket dimension power so that he could get in and out of his pocket dimension without using technology or a chair. He had the technology power so he could sort of control his satellites and take out anyone that was going to sort of use technology against him. There was bits in there, but at the same time you're going, I don't get why all these have been put together, and some of them seemed like they were tacked on so that they could fill a couple of episodes with, well, we've got to hunt this particular person. You know, that gives us one episode more that we've filled, you know, because this is the episode where we hunt the banjo-playing women.
Yeah, and fail. Again.
Yeah. and don't succeed, yeah. It was like a frequent thing of, we're going to catch this person, oh, DeVoe got them at the last minute, oh. And there was even the climax of Barry's whole prison experience is, okay, break out and save a load of the metahumans, and they all, will all get away. At that point I thought, oh, well, they have a chance, they've got a good team together there, they might be able to get out. No, DeVoe comes along and takes them all out.
Yeah. And I actually really liked, I can't remember the character's name, but the sugar-lid beard character, the lucky one. She was actually really good.
Becky Sharp.
Becky,
that's the one.
Yeah, because she was like, I'm not a bad person, and when she got her luck powers, she was just like, you know what, I'm just going to use my luck powers because I've had bad luck my entire life, and it's like, yeah, who wouldn't? And then it just goes out of hand because she doesn't know how to control them, and then later on she's very much in this prison, but she's a good person, and her death meant something because of that, because they'd spent that time like, this is someone who really doesn't deserve the fate that she's about to get, and then and she's just a body that DeVoe uses for an episode before switching to another one.
Yeah, and to be fair, that was quite a fun episode when she was introduced as on silly episode fronts.
Yeah,
I mean, no, she shouldn't have been that difficult to catch, but well,
that was part of the fun of it.
It was still a bit of fun.
Yeah, like Barry slipping on marbles and things like that. And who's delivering marbles in the middle of the day?
A whole truck of marbles. Not just like some kid drops a packet of marbles. It's a delivery truck of marbles.
And then later on when he handcuffed himself and he's like, how is this possible? It was just so funny. And that's kind of an example of the tone they were trying to set and then lost their way with as the season went on. It's weird because it feels like they were trying to replicate season 1's tone because everyone liked that, but they've forgotten what made it possible in season 1, and they'd forgotten how to do it. So it just comes across as forced. Like, a lot of the humour felt forced in this season, I thought.
It did seem like some of it was tacked on as an afterthought, like someone went through the script and went, and then we do a gag here, and then we do a bit here. And there was other stuff that I thought, oh, this should actually be a bit darker, that was then played for laughs. I mean, I don't know if you want to jump onto Harry's thinking cap mishap at this point, but I kind of felt a little bit later on. I was looking back at it going, this is like a super clever guy. He's been defined by intelligence his entire life, and he's slowly losing that. And instead of it coming across as bad and dramatic as they were intending, in my opinion, some of it they just played for laughs. Forgetting people's names or saying something stupid, and then you're like, oh, hang on, that's
walking into chairs.
Quite, bumping into chairs, tripping over furniture, and you go, no, don't play it that way. This is like a traumatic thing, and you got some of that. I mean, they did try it with Cisco, where he's sort of looking at him, and you can see that Cisco is just so upset for him. But I don't think there was enough of that. I just, it was more like a look of disappointment, and then they tried to adjust that again in the very last episode, but I still didn't quite connect with it for some reason.
Yeah, that was one of the few moments that I actually quite liked, was that bit between Harry and Cisco in the last episode, because when Harry's using the cap like for what is going to be the last time, because it's basically going to burn out his entire personality to do so. And before that, it's Cisco like basically saying goodbye. And I thought that was like really well done, really emotional and poignant. and there just needed to have been so much more of that. I totally agree. And
his idea didn't work, which downplays it slightly, and then it gets undone by the end of the episode anyway, which completely downplays it.
Yeah, well, I don't think it was immediately downplayed by it not working. I felt that made it all more tragic, by the fact that he's effectively sacrificed himself for nothing. Yeah. Though, as I said, that like it's rendered moot when it gets reversed. Yeah, but at the moment itself, then you're still able to feel that for as long as it lasts.
Yeah, Tom Cavanaugh does a good job of that. Having him be of average intelligence but high emotional intelligence by the end of the season is it's not so good. There's no use for Harry in the show anymore, that's for sure, because he's not a genius. So what's he going to do?
Yeah, we'll just get a new Harry.
We'll just get a new Harrison Wells, as long as it's not any of the Council of Wells or the Council of Harrisons. None of those weirdos.
Mm-hmm. I kind of got the impression they were trying to go full on Orphan Black with that whole thing, and they just failed miserably.
They were all just caricatures, weren't they? They were all just horrible, thinly sketched caricatures. And as fun as it can be to see Tom Cavanaugh play around with these things, there was nothing to them, and I don't want any of them to come back ever again.
I think it was very funny in the first episode it was introduced as an idea, and then it was fun to see. This time they kind of played it a bit too much. And like you say, adding on the Council of Harrisons at the other end, you were going, oh, okay, this is played out now. So yeah, let's leave that. Let's leave that. Maybe we'll end up with a Council of Cisco's in the next season.
Oh God.
Council of Irises or Iris Eye.
Oh God, no.
Council of Dibney. Can you imagine? Right, okay. I'm not even going there. I'm giving writers ideas that I shouldn't be putting out there.
You've said too much.
I've said too much. Let's edit that out. Let's quick replace it with static noise. Pretend my microphone cut out.
Going back to sort of DeVoe's plan as such, his relationship to Marlize was supposed to be a big part of that, although I don't think it was as big a part of it as it should have been. My favourite thing that they did with her was when he was drugging her, and it was kind of playing in that. It wasn't quite a time loop, but it was, as far as she was concerned, it was a loop. She was seeing the plans to that thing that she'd already been designing, and she was continuing her own work, but she didn't realise it, and then by the end of the episode she finds out, before forgetting again, that it was her husband drugging her this whole time every time she found out about it. I thought that was really nicely done and really effective, and then it's a shame they didn't do more with it, and especially by the end of the season when she's in the last episode, none of that emotional connection comes into play at all. She's just another voice shouting nonsense at Star Labs, and it's a real waste of something good that they had there.
I thought it was incredibly dark, that episode where you're finding out that she's, you got the hint that she's been getting drugged, but then when you find out that she's sort of recorded this video however many times, and I can't remember how many times he says that she's discovered the video already.
Yeah.
But yeah, incredibly dark, and I did want to see her getting a bit of a bigger revenge towards the end there for what he had done to her. I suppose the ultimate revenge is making his plan fail, but yeah, I do think there needed to be a bit more of a connection at the end. I mean, granted, it was her trying to find her Clifford in the end and get him back until they found out that in his mind he's kind of been shot and killed. The real Clifford DeVoe is dead now, in the most brutal way. But I do think it needed something to sign it off a little bit better. I don't know, some sort of apology thing. I don't know what I was expecting in the end there.
Yeah, and I think with the aspect of their whole relationship, there needed to be more of an explanation into what actually attracted them to each other in the first place. We do get that flashback episode of of them first meeting. I really don't think there's enough in that to convince of exactly what would have been the catalyst for them beginning a relationship. I mean, yeah, it's like one particular aspect of that which irritated me was when there's a scene of them having a picnic together, and Marliese mentions something like no one's ever challenged me like that before, like referred to their argument they had in the debate. But I was just thinking, it's like seriously, you're trying to imply that a beautiful woman in an academic environment hasn't ever been questioned or belittled by some condescending man in a smug and arrogant dismissal. It's like, I find that very, very hard to believe or accept.
I definitely think that there would have been someone would have debated and challenged her before. It was her change in opinion from Clifford, what I saw scared me, to I'm going to be by your side to complete this completely evil plan. That's the bit I just, in that episode, I was like, do you know what, it is interesting seeing the origins of a villain from one point of view. However, it was her switch round that I didn't understand. Him and his beliefs, well, he must have been committed to get to that point, but the reason that she changes her mind, I just didn't quite get. It was like, oh, well, these feelings were always inside me, and the reason I ran away from you is because it scared me what I knew was true at that, but I didn't get it. It was like, no, you ran away because you thought he was nuts. And the fact that he runs through a war zone to get you is equally nuts. It's like, that at this point, you shouldn't be convinced of his plan.
Yeah, because she decides that technology is bad after some people come in and shoot up the place. After she's made a piece of technology that helps people. Because it's a water purifier or something, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So she's making something that will help people in underprivileged areas have clean drinking water. Right? There is nothing bad about that. There is no disadvantage. The fact that people came in to shoot it up is to do with people and their own agendas and their own decisions. It's nothing to do with technology. But she concludes, oh no, you're right, technology is a blight on society, we need to get rid of it. And we need to build all this stuff to make that happen. But yeah, it's that kind of the light switch moment, it just doesn't work. And then she's supposed to have that other light switch moment where she's like, hang on, you are a psycho, and I'm leaving. And then she leaves and then works with Team Flash, and then doesn't really have any emotional resolution with her husband. Even when he does come back as a hologram, which I thought was quite cool, and I was like, alright, cool. This will be the point where, there's some kind of catharsis there. It's like, nope, she just unplugs the chair. So that's that. Problem solved, I guess. That was how DeVoe was defeated, by having his chair unplugged.
But I'm getting into future bits and whatever, I don't think he's defeated, because he's still kind of floating around inside Dibney.
Yeah, well,
I would think.
Do you think Ralph has all those powers, by the way, since they were in his body and he's reclaimed his body?
This I don't know. It's like, just because Dibney was the one that got out, if Barry had stumbled over Kilgrave or whatever his name was, or Kilgore, there we go. Kilgore, sorry, I'm merging TV shows there, aren't I? If he had got a hold of him and threw him through, would he have taken control? Would that have been the way that worked? I don't know. It's like, and were they all floating about inside there? In which case, are they all still inside Dibney's head now? I mean, I suppose that's something that's going to be explored in the next season, isn't it?
No.
Hopefully.
Or just completely forgotten about. It's like, remember that time when you had all those people inside you, Dibney? And then it'll be played as a gag. But it's, I don't know. It's a bit weird.
Well, he only uses his stretchy powers when he's back in the real world. So he should still have all the abilities because they were absorbed by his body, or they were absorbed into his body. I don't know how this whole body switching process works. It seems that he was able to hold on to the powers every time he jumped bodies for some reason.
Yeah. Well, it was something to do with was it brainstorm? Something to do with his powers.
Guy,
that allowed him to sort of like jump between them.
What happened to that guy as well? Did he not essentially die off screen or something?
God, I can't even remember. I mean, to be honest, like there were so many different characters like being like flung at you left, right, and centre. I'm trying to remember like which one of them were bus knitters and which one were like random villains of the week, and which ones were part of the Kilgore of DeVoe's plan and which ones weren't. I mean, I started to lose track after a while.
Yeah, it's just a confusing mess, and not very good, really. I mean, I think we can agree that DeVoe was a pretty bad villain. I liked him at first when he was the terminally ill guy trying to stop himself from dying. That was enough of a motivation for me, and then I thought his plan at the time was to try and steal Barry's body or something, because he would burn through everything else except Barry's because of his healing ability. Nope. Turns out Dibney's body was the perfect one because of his stretching ability or something.
Yes, because he could look like himself again, instead of having some pseudo lesbian scenes with his wife in whatever random woman he's inhabiting this week.
And in a show that's usually quite progressive about same-sex relationships as well. Yeah. They did have one cool action scene with him, though. I think it was the penultimate episode where he broke into Argus. I think it was Argus.
Yes.
And he just wandered around, just stomping everybody in his path. That was really cool. A lot of people compared it to the kind of Daredevil hallway scene, and to an extent, it's almost as good as that. It was a very well shot sequence.
It was a good example of him using sort of each of his powers on the way through. I mean, I liked that he impersonated Diggle on the way in. That was a nice little sort of cameo bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he just completely messed up Argus. But when do you ever see Argus not getting completely messed up with someone? It doesn't take much to break into Argus, does it?
Yeah. They're just an army of red shirts, the whole lot of them.
They are. It's like, let's put all these disposable people in front of it, and hopefully no one gets through. Oh, okay, they've broken, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he properly went through that entire facility.
Well, remember last season when they were trying to get into a facility where there was anti-metahuman stuff?
Yes.
That meant that they couldn't use his powers to get in, and that's why they needed Snart, because he was good at heists. Yeah, where was that?
Yeah, that... I mean, I just...
Kilgore's power would stop those working.
I think, yeah, he got them to disable the tech at the door, didn't he? When he was Diggle, he said to disable the the meta-human dampeners when he was on his way in, and then once that was off, then he could do everything that he wanted to, really. I mean, it kind of showed the power level as well, where you're like, this is the ridiculous level that we've got to power up our villain now to make them immune to Team Flash and anyone else that can be called in. Because he just went through that facility himself. There was no like army of goons behind him.
And it's like, I have to sit in here all episode while the nuclear guy powers up. And that should give people a chance to stop me. Yeah.
Oh, they loved a countdown timer or a percent bar in this season. There's got to be a percent bar in Flash Supercut sitting somewhere, because there was a lot of timers this season.
Well, that was the tension in the final episode. It was, we'll look at the screen every now and again, and we'll see how close to 100 it is, and that tells us how screwed we are. And that doesn't really work.
Yeah, guaranteed to get to 99.99 before a resolution. Yeah.
You do see the kind of effect it's having on the people outside in the opening minutes of the episode, but you never return to that. So it's just, oh my god, it's at 86.3%. Hurry up.
Yeah, you don't return to them partway through. You return to them at the very end when the lights sort of come back on, and everyone goes, "Oh, thank God for that."
So you can cheer on the Flash after he punches a satellite.
Though I was thinking, at that point it'd be a really bad time for the sort of police chief to be hit by a car or something. Hey Barry, I've got good news for you about your job. Screech of tyres as a car mows him down.
I just need to go in tomorrow morning and sign off this paperwork, and then we're fine.
Yeah. I'm just going to go and get a coffee at this place that gets a refit once every 2 weeks. That would be the place that you would totally avoid, wouldn't it? That would be blacklisted.
There was another source of tension, though. They were trying to stop Cecile having a baby, because then she would lose the ability that was required, which is kind of bizarre because there are no consequences to them doing that. It's just like, okay, she's fine now, the baby's perfectly healthy. There are no, I mean, it might have been a bit dark to be like, because of what we did, this baby is now brain damaged, or something. But
but you would think at the very least, they would have acknowledged the possibility of consequences for doing that.
Yeah.
But they just launched straight ahead.
Yeah. And I don't know, the Cecile pregnancy stuff was pretty tedious throughout because of the mind reading ability. Just although I like what they did with the whole Joe was worried about him hearing, worried about her hearing what he thought, and then she puts his mind at ease by saying, hearing a few stray thoughts isn't going to change the way I feel about you and stuff, because you do get that in a lot of these mind reading things where it's like they heard something and they're like, this changes my opinion of you completely. So I'm glad they dodged that, because that's just boring and rubbish. I mean, I suppose the relationship isn't central enough for that to happen.
No, but it is good that they sort of avoided that usual trope.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I don't know what's going to happen next season now that there's a new child kicking about. Probably nothing. It'll just be mentioned every now and again. Maybe like Diggle's son or daughter or whatever it is this week.
Damn Flashpoint's changed it again.
Damn it, Barry!
Comes back, he's then got twins. It's like, where did he come from?
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be like any other child in these types of shows where they just, they're mentioned now and again, or there's a convenient nanny that can be chucked at just the week, or Cecile's not in it this week because she's looking after the baby. I don't know, all sorts of things. But yeah, the mind reading stuff, I think it gave us some good scenes with Harry though. I actually like Cecile and Harry's dynamic because they do bounce off each other really well. I really liked it when he was coming up with the cerebral inhibitor thing. And she was like, I can't wear this. It's like, well, I'm a genius and came up with this great device. And she's like, yeah, but it weighs like a ton. And it was this big thing, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It was just a massive thing that she was putting on her head at first.
It was just a big dustbin, wasn't it? It was just huge. It's like, wear this dustbin over your head and then you won't hear anyone.
Just give me half an hour and I'll get it miniaturized for you, though. How many years of development was it before the iPhone is, the size it is now or whatever? But Harry Wells can do that in an afternoon. Just, he was on Thinking Cap at the time, I suppose, but still. Or was he? Oh.
I can't remember. I think that was pre-Thinking Cap, because did he not use what he did with Cecile to make his Thinking Cap?
Very possible.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I might be rewriting that in my head.
Very possibly. I don't have any more thoughts on Cecile, really. Andrew, you got anything on Cecile?
Honestly, nothing more than what's already been mentioned. Because there was really that little done with her.
Yeah, it's part of the furniture that Harry can walk into. On to possibly the most problematic character of the season, Caitlin. This whole Caitlin Killer Frost thing is not something I've ever been a fan of because I don't understand the need for a split personality, and apparently Daniel Panabaker also doesn't understand the need for a split personality, which
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, which will definitely affect her performance. But the whole, so sometimes they hang around with Killer Frost and sometimes they hang around with Caitlin. It's a bit weird because they've just randomly accepted that there's two people living inside the same body, and you get Caitlin feeling jealous of herself for a little while. And then by the end of the season you have this, well, before the end of the season, you've got the built up, apparently they've built up some kind of relationship where they leave each other notes about stuff, which was never seen before and only existed in that episode to make the departure of Killer Frost feel more tragic.
Yeah, there was a bit. I mean, they did the whole. That's an in-joke that only Killer Frost would get, or yeah, she's so fun when she's around. We wish you were more like her, kind of thing. Yeah. To just peeve her off. I don't understand the need for the split personality thing. The big bit for me was the sort of rewriting or the little tease thing, because it's going to come up later on at some point. Of that she's always had Killer Frost inside her. That little cut scene thing that was quickly thrown in there.
Also, massive inconsistency, it seems, because Killer Frost only existed after alchemy rolled over from the whole Flashpoint reality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, there is precedent for metahumans existing before the particle accelerator explosion, because they mentioned that with the one Doug Jones played, although that was mentioned in an Arrow episode, which is where he first appeared. But it was like, if he wasn't hit by the accelerator, then how did he get his powers? And then,
wait, which one was he?
He was the one that was like basically Cyclops. He could shoot beams from his eyes.
Right. Yes. I remember now.
He first appeared in an Arrow episode, and then turned up periodically in Flash. I don't remember what happened to him, if he's dead or not.
But even if it was a Flashpoint change, everyone that's had their lives changed by Flashpoint only knows the Flashpoint timeline. It's not like the only person that came in not knowing what that world was like was Barry.
Yeah.
So if it had been a post-Flashpoint thing, she'd have known at that point.
Unless forgotten about that particular that memory, like that was the whole point. Is there's a lot more to her life than she remembers, and for some reason, part of getting Killer Frost back had nothing to do with the lack of dark matter in her system, and had everything to do with some kind of emotional trauma she was hiding from herself, which allowed for another example of people sitting opposite that bloody therapist. And I think they decided, someone in the writing staff decided that this was really funny and really charming, and we should get every character in front of this woman. But it's just not. Every time it came up, I was like, oh, this woman again. The only therapist in Central City, apparently.
I think that therapist should become sort of consistent through the canon, to be honest. I want to see Oliver and Felicity sorting out their differences opposite. I think if they're going to roll with it big style. Get the Legends in, get Arrow in, get them all in. Black Lightning, anyone. They put them in front of that therapist.
Just same woman.
Yeah, that same woman all the way through it. And when it turns out that she is a super villain in a few seasons' time, it'll be worth the build-up.
I could go for that, definitely.
I've discovered all your secret identities because you've been so lax with me over this time. You thought I didn't know. I figured it all out. Now you're going down.
Yeah.
I'll take you all down with pent-up emotional trauma.
That's it. I'm just going to say something that will really upset you and it'll throw you off your game. And that's no, it's like, nah. You could imagine that, actually, something like that happening. Barry gets stopped. Barry's about to do the takedown because he's not using flash time because he's an idiot. And then she just says, remember what it felt like the night your mother died? And how you were there twice to see it happen. And he's like, oh yeah, that's really upsetting. Hang on, I'm just going to sit around in flash time for a while to get over this, and then I'll come back and stop.
Damn it, flash time. Taking that out. See, that could be the, if you build it up and everything, that could be the joint up episode. That could be the sort of...
the next crossover.
Yeah, the next crossover. Bring it on, group therapy.
Oh god, it'd be ridiculous. But just the kind of ridiculous that might just work.
Do you know what? If you've got them all sitting there in the studio filming the crossover, there'd be no harm in giving us a little cut of 5 minutes so we can have a laugh. How about that? I put it to you, people. We're paying these actors. You can give them just a 5-minute thing, okay, of group therapy.
Why not? Yeah. So with Caitlin, you had all this... Yeah, you had all these problems with Caitlin and her duality. It just didn't work for me because I didn't understand where any of it was coming from. All of the emotional side of it just felt forced, so I didn't ever buy into it. And her obsession with getting Killer Frost back because she feels like she was missing a part of herself is just, again, doesn't work, because the last we knew she wanted rid of it because it was a problem for her. But even if you accept she gets around to that, you had this whole thing where she lies to the team, because that's what they do. She lies to the team about Amunet being able to help them, even though she can't. And she offers to do a crime on her behalf if it all works out. And I've no objection to Caitlin saying, I'll get Killer Frost to do a crime for you because that's an impulsive emotional reaction. That's characters making mistakes, which is good. She's not held accountable for it though. No one says to her, that is a really stupid thing to do. You have no idea what she would ask you to do. What if she asked you to kill someone? You know, something like that. The lack of accountability bothers me.
I agree. I think it's a bit... It's the usual thing, like you say, it ticks all the Flash problem boxes of them not being open and honest with each other, which is something that, you know, they should have learnt by now, plus the no accountability kind of thing. I mean, you touched on Amunet there. I'm still confused as to what her powers actually are, because she's able to make a bit of metal with the one throw ability, it'll destroy satellites thing. And I'm like, but if Barry just threw a lump of metal really fast at a satellite, would it not kill it anyway? I'm a bit confused, but...
maybe like all of the bits of metal like in her bucket that she carts around everywhere, like were all special bits of metal that hasn't actually been mentioned yet.
They were stealing very specific shards of metal. I don't know why. I don't remember why, because I hated that episode so much. It was one of the worst things I've seen in a long time. It was just terrible from start to finish. And I was like, why am I watching this?
It was like some developed alloy type thing. It's a very rare metal, whatever it was, the shards that she's able to control. But it was more that she could imbue a certain set of the shards with powers even when other people throwed them. That confused me. That was like a question marky type thing.
Yeah, and they were trying to work out a delivery system. It's like, if only we knew people with a time-travelling spaceship that could help us.
If only.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was waiting for it to be delivered by Arrow.
Yeah, just stick it in the end of an arrow and fire it. Why not? Like, I don't know. It makes about much sense as anything else that's going on. And all he does is jump off a building and throw it anyway. And it only takes out one satellite, and it's like, don't worry, I can use your satellite.
Yeah, I can just hijack another one.
Yeah.
Which immediately asks is like, well, then why did you need to steal them in the first place?
Yeah. Why are you building?
Like, was I missing something?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. But that episode was one of the worst pieces of crap I've seen in a long time. It was truly awful. And I just got annoyed. I did get really annoyed when the reaction to Caitlin offering to do a crime on Amunet's behalf was just dismissed by everyone. Like, no one reacted to it. I mean, you think that someone would realise what the consequences of that could be. And it reminded me of an episode of Angel. I mean, I don't know if either of you have seen Angel.
Not for years.
Yeah, sorry, you're out of luck over here.
I'm going to spoil it anyway. In the 5th season, I mean, the show is like 15 years old or something like that. Like, get over it. But, in the 5th season, there is a point where one of the characters has... I mean, without going into too much detail, they're corrupted by this evil law firm. And one of the characters has been given, like, you know, boundless knowledge of the law. So he knows everything about the law, and then he starts to lose that knowledge. So in order to get it back, he has to do a favour for this doctor that can give him it back. And that favour is just get something out of customs. It's fine. And you know, he's like, yeah, it's fine. I can't see there being anything bad with this, because he's desperate. He just signs it off, and then what happens is it ends up killing one of the members of the team. So there are the consequences of that. He's held accountable for that. It affects him for the rest of the series. Whereas in Flash, it's like, alright, we're going to do a crime, but now you're not. And I think Barry should have given Caitlin a chewing out for that, or Iris, or Joe. You know, Joe should have said that. You know, all the time we spend trying to stop criminals, and you're just going to be one, apparently. Even if it's just one. And I don't know, it just stuck in my craw. And it still continues to.
I had a strong reaction, maybe not as strong as struck in my craw, but definitely was. It was a bit sort of, there's no consequences, but the thing is, it's a no consequences yet thing, I think, because you know, we've not got her back at full strength yet, and you know, Amunet's got away, so consequences
Again.
are probably going to come. Yeah, again, yeah.
Yeah, every time she turns up, it's like, why aren't you arresting her?
It's like she's right there. It's like you can move a lot faster than she can. Just grab her. Yeah. It will be very simple.
Hit the pause button, saunter over there, contemplate it for a bit, eat a ham sandwich, put the cuffs on her. Job done. It's like...
She's such a waste of such a talented actor as well.
I mean, there's
she's not good in this.
No, I mean, there's elements of fun, and you can see it's like a lot of the things you can see what they're aiming for, but they just miss so often, and it's really annoying because you're like, I can see what you wanted to do with this character, and you just didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that they think that Amina as a character is a lot more fun and interesting than she actually is, which is why they want to keep her out of jail and still kicking her out of the place, so they can just bring her back whenever they feel like it, because they think it'll be fun. Whereas for viewers, it's just boring.
Do you think it's like they're lining her up as a replacement for Snart in a way that they'll have their tame criminal that they go to? You know, because they've said that, you know, Snart's not coming back, that this is them going, okay, we need another criminal that they can go to if they need to break in somewhere or do a heist.
God, I hope not. Yeah, it sounds like the kind of thing that they would do, but I really, really hope they don't.
No, let's not have that happen. I'm struggling to think of anything Cisco had to do with any import this season. He had that whole relationship with Gypsy that ended. He was going to be the next Breacher and then didn't want to be. That was it.
Exactly, and that had the potential to be like a really interesting plotline. Yeah, we have because you can just imagine how much mileage they could get out of Cisco, like being torn like between his loyalty for Team Flash and his desire to basically to have his dream job alongside the woman that he loves.
Yeah,
Which basically could be a perfect life for him. And forcing him to choose between that, but had the potential to have a great deal of emotional poignancy to it, and yet they just botched it, and didn't even bother trying to do anything with it.
Yeah, I mean the relationship with Gypsy was never that well developed to begin with, because it got mentioned every now and again. And as good as it is to see Danny Trejo, I don't think he was used particularly well here. He's kind of he won't be back, I suppose, because he's too old to use his powers and effectively. So you've got that, but
because probably that happens.
Yeah, apparently. And what happens with Jay as well? He's too old to use his powers effectively now, apparently, as of one episode. But I honestly thought the finale was going to, or one of the things that would happen in the finale is that Cisco would say, on second thought, I'm actually going to go off and do this, and then everyone would have been like, yeah, we'll support you with that, bye, and then you just leave. And I don't know, maybe you have him missing for a few episodes, or you could still have him in as many episodes, but in a more recurring capacity, and maybe Team Flash are tracking down a lot more different Earth metahumans, as a result, because they just keep coming to Earth 1 for reasons.
It would almost be an interesting standalone thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you just have him cutting about doing his own thing for a little while. He can maybe interact with alternate versions of the cast. Why not? And then he returns at some point after deciding it's maybe not for him, or he has to deal with a very specific problem on Earth 1 that takes half a season. It's almost like what Thor was doing in the Avengers movies, where he was going around trying to sort out the 9 realms and ends up staying on Earth for a while because there's a lot of problems there. But once again, they could have tried doing another spin-off series to having it being like a full go in its own right, and actually have the series be called Breachers. Just being about him Gypsy kind of just jumping out the multiverse. think we've got enough shows in this universe at this point to keep track of.
True.
Using my theory, you could half the number of episodes in several of these and do a little spin-off in between with a spare episode time that you've allocated yourself.
Yeah. They definitely can't sustain a one villain for an entire season. They've proven that on 3 separate occasions. Season 1's different because you didn't know who the villain was at first.
Half of the season there isn't a main villain there.
Yeah.
You know, there's an occasional drop in, like very, very occasional, but it's not. You're not building towards that in the first half.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all pointless. But yeah, Cisco. It's a shame because I like that character so much, and it's a shame that they're not doing anything with him. Just having him stand around, fix stuff, and get presented with interesting possibilities, and then not use them. It would have been cool. I don't know.
Yeah. The problem they would have had though was to be if Cisco did leave, then who would make everyone look at their costumes?
Well, they've all got their costumes now. I mean, he just needs to fix baddies, and then he's all right.
But you've got to make them for the other programs as well, because the drop off is always you've got them. I suppose you could get them off of Gamby if he's part of this particular universe. They've not quite committed themselves yet.
The Wave Rider can just make them up
at
any time, so that's fine. Because that's how what's her name? Zari got hers that she never wears. So yeah, it can just make them up. So at the end of the season, we're at that point. So we had the introduction of, well, it's not the introduction, we had the reveal of who this mysterious girl that appeared in every episode, or sporadically since the crossover, who seemed to know them and seemed to want to be around them, and was just scrawling stuff that were like Speed Force symbols or whatever. I won't ask, was anybody surprised by the reveal? I will ask, at what point did you figure out what it would be?
Ooh, I think like about the second time she was on, and I was like, oh, it's a fan, it's someone that knows they're all a secret, and they know, or she knows where they're going to be and what's going to be going on. It must be someone from the future. I don't know when I quite put 2 and 2 together and went, oh, it's a speedster, so it'll be their daughter or their child, definitely.
Yeah, well, I actually had that thought like pretty much the moment she appeared, being all enigmatic and mysterious. Yeah. But then I dismissed it, kind of like very naively, thinking, nah, it won't be that. Like that's too boring and cliched. Yeah, it'll be something far more imaginative than that.
And then you remembered what show you were watching.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, but that was my first suspicion when I saw her at the wedding. I was like, oh, that's their daughter coming back to see their wedding thing. Yeah, and that was it. Because she just vanishes. And every time she turns up, although it had the same problem that a lot of Doctor Who arcs have, where it doesn't tell you anything new when they appear, it just reminds you that it's there. So it had that problem. Every time she turned up, it was like, alright, she's here again, speaking to different people. But you're not learning anything as she does. With the exception of her writing those weird symbols in her book. That was the only time that you kind of... And then when she speeds off at one point, towards the end, you get, alright, she's a speedster, and then she just turns up and says, hi, I'm your daughter from the future, and I've made a massive mistake. My thinking is that Barry was supposed to have been killed by the satellite thing, because they teased that when Marlise says what happens to him in all this. And then you had the bit where time rewound, and then she was there, and I guess the extra speedster oomph stopped it from killing him.
I think he was either supposed to be killed or like badly injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the implication I took from it.
Yeah. So, I think that this character, Nora, it turns out her name is, which makes sense. I think she could be an asset to the show. Certainly in the first part of season 5, she is. She's got a good energy about her. She seems like she'll be a good fit for the cast. I don't know how permanent she'll be. I imagine it would just be an arc at the start of the series where they fix her where that mistake she makes is addressed, and then she buggers off. But I don't know what they've got planned for her.
A seat on the Wave Rider.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, the whole prospect of them meeting their future daughter and this kind of this example of what their relationship will turn out to be, and all this, that'll have interesting implications to it, because Barry and Iris will get to see what a child they raise turns out like, and there'll be either pride or disappointment, I suppose, in that, and you'll get to see Barry give advice to his daughter when he doesn't really know the answers himself, and there's all sorts of potential there.
I don't know. I think we're going to end up seeing daughter fading out as something goes wrong that means that they're going to be apart, or they're going to disagree. And there's going to be something like that going. I think.
Yeah, you think they'll go the angsty angle? You're probably right.
I think they'll do the I shouldn't have changed something, and now that I've changed it, I'm not going to be born because everything is different. And I'm going to explain how it's different, and just before I get to a critical bit of information, I'm going to fade out completely, and you're not going to know for the rest of the season until the final episode.
Although if Barry was supposed to die during the satellite thing, then that would mean that she was conceived before that point, so that would mean that Iris is pregnant at the end of the list.
That's why I was saying that I think he was supposed to be really badly injured, maybe injured to the point where he couldn't use his powers anymore, but he survived. I don't know. I'm like trying to make stuff up in my head. I've got no idea. Maybe they don't have an idea at this point either. I don't know. Maybe they've written it, but not too sure.
It was a very weak cliffhanger.
I agree that I don't think that they actually know what they're going to do with her yet, or have like any proper idea of where they're going to go. I still have to figure out exactly what problems her meddling has caused, but in such a way that it isn't too similar to Legends. Otherwise, it'll just end up looking like the same show.
Yeah.
And also have the instant fix of them simply being able to call in the time travelers to fix it. And seeing as Wally is now evidently fine with jumping in and out of the present, then it should be fairly simple for him to call all his new friends.
Yeah, and Sarah as well. I mean, even evil Laurel could phone her. So they seem to be pretty easy to contact. The one thing that stood out to me was Barry didn't ask Wally if he was there during this whole satellite debacle, because it would have made sense, because he knew there was another speedster there but he didn't know who it was. So I felt like there should have been a little moment where Barry goes up to Wally and be like, "Thanks for your help back there," and it's like, "What are you talking about?" He
might have noticed the colour of the lightning and then figured it wasn't Wally, which I actually thought was a nice touch. It's just with Nora having purple lightning, which was like the same colour that Irish was given when she got Barry's speedster powers.
Yeah, she has like yellow and purple mixture of the two. So yeah, they never explained why Iris has purple lightning, especially after they've gone to some lengths to explain why the lightning is a different colour depending on situations. You know, the blue lightning means that speedster's sick, the yellow is healthy. They never explained what the red is, I suppose, but it's just the opposite. I don't know, but yeah, it's bizarre. Or Savitar's lightning is white because he's really fast.
Because reasons.
It's because everything has to have some color coded rainbow variants.
He's fighting, yeah.
But we feel like the same kind of thing as DeVoe's powers. Because each one was color coded, so you could tell exactly which one he was using at any given moment.
Yeah, it's that clever visual. Well, it's a visual cue. I don't know if it's clever. It's clever enough. I mean, I don't have any problem with the production people on these shows. They do some really good work. Some of the CGI is great, and you know they manage to put together things really nicely. It's just the writing I have issues with. You know, and the fact that it's turning characters that I do like into people I don't like, because they just behave so stupidly constantly. Very quickly, what do you think is going to happen next season? You know, they've said there's not enough there won't be another speedster villain. If they have said who the new villain's going to be, I haven't caught it. Although I don't want it to be another villain all season. I really want them to adopt the Gotham or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. model of, let's have 8 episodes about this, let's have 8 episodes about that, and then we'll have another 8 episodes about this other thing, and build up to that last thing. I don't want this single season villain that just drags the arse out of the whole thing.
I'm not entirely sure what I think will happen, but certainly what I hope will happen will be that they'll learn from the mistakes that they made in this season, and at the very least, actually have an end point in sight when they actually start writing it. Yeah. So they know what they're heading towards, and so can organically move towards there. So that when this does get revealed, it doesn't seem like something that they pulled out of nowhere.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think about next season?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as you. I think a villain for a few episodes, like you say, like give them 8 episodes each and do some little individual bits. I think try and go back to its roots a little bit more. I think, likely we're going to end up with some form of multi-personality Dibney with what he's got stuck inside. I mean, if he's got all those powers, I mean, they might try and come up with a way of separating folk out. I don't know how they would do that, but anyway, multi-personality Dibney for a bit. Potential Thinker return as part of that if all the personalities are still in there. And I've already said my sort of theory about future daughter, Nora potentially sort of fading out for some particular reason, that the couple are splitting apart or whatever. They should be together.
Yeah.
So let's go with something like that. I'm not too sure.
I think they'll do work on the whole Killer Frost thing. Find out why she was Killer Frost when she was a child. I'm sure that Cecile mentioned something about finding whatever her dad's name is. That was one of the things she said. So I think Caitlin's father and her relationship with her father will be part of next season. One thing I want them to address is, what the hell was Barry talking about when he got out of the Speed Force? They never went back to that. The whole bitch stuff.
Yeah, they also had Harry repeating some of the bits and pieces from...
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Why? They don't tell you. Like, it's just left.
Oh, maybe it's being teased, maybe they're playing, maybe we're not giving them credit for playing the long game when actually there is a plan for it. It's either that or they're just throwing it in and going, future us will make a decision about what we're doing here.
Yeah, and also, I think I saw some of that writing appear on the visor when Harry's mind was saved.
Yeah. Well, they had that whole he's saying the exact same things Barry was saying, and then they never addressed it at all. Yeah, there's something that foreshadows Nora though. There's something about it's too early for her or something like that. So they just forgot all about this. I think there should also be some consequences to him leaving the Speed Force, because the Speed Force is a sentient entity of some sort. So the fact that they can just stick something in that looks like Barry and hope for the best, it seems a bit short-sighted there. Especially when they went back in during Enter Flash time and took that thing out. So where are the consequences to Barry leaving the Speed Force? We never had any. So we're still waiting on that. So yeah, clearing all that up. I mean, did the writers forget, or is it planned for later, as you say? I don't know.
But see, the consequences of someone being missing from the Speed Force before was pretty quick.
That's before they stuck a piece of rock or something in that fools it into thinking that Barry's there.
Sort of like a dummy going in, all these people in the Speed Force are talking to a dummy with a picture of Barry on it. Yeah. I don't know, I just... Yeah, I think it's like they sit there and it's like, oh, well, someone else wrote that bit of canon, we're just going to forget that bit and move on to this bit. There's so much, and even when you hear the cast talking at some of the sort of Comic-Con panels and things, There's a lot of, don't ask about this, we don't know. Don't ask about that either, we don't know. Don't ask about that. And you're like, does anyone, who's the person that should be standing up there when fans go, what about, what about this? What about that? What about, how is, if that person does that and that person goes back, then how does this make sense now? You know, it's like that, those are the panels that I think the writers need to be sitting going, oh, right, we need to tidy all this up. It's like, how can we tidy this up? But I think at this point it would be impossible without invalidating some of what they've done.
Well, the impression I got is that what Barry was rambling about would be eventually significant in terms of defeating DeVoe or whatever. But, nah, it just wasn't.
Well, that may have been their initial intent. But then...
To do with it.
Exactly.
Well, you did get a repeat of the "this house is bitchin" line in the last episode.
Yeah.
Because Nora says it when she gets into the house.
Well, I liked that it was a running joke. People would just say it occasionally. Yeah. But, I don't know. A wizard did it. That's all we can say.
Magic. And just because.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even magic's not an excuse because we have magic in this universe. So, yeah. So, I think that's us cathartically ranted about the season for long enough.
I certainly feel a lot better.
It's just...
I'm going off to see my therapist.
That same therapist.
That one therapist.
I can't remember her name. Dr. something. Yeah. Her. I don't know who she is. She comes highly recommended. Everyone in Central City uses her, apparently. You should go see Lucifer's therapist from his own show. She's really good. So we'll just wrap up here. Any final thoughts from about this season, about next season, about The Flash in general, before we sign off?
Please, God, do better next time.
I think I can only share that sentiment, and
Yeah, I completely share that sentiment. Yeah. Please do better next time. So, Chris, thank you for joining for more DC chat, as always.
Thank you. And
Andrew, welcome aboard, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
So that was our discussion on The Flash Season 4. A big thanks to YouTuber Nstens1117 for the supplied music. If you like what you heard, then please do hit that subscribe button on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app. iTunes users, we would love it if you'd leave a star rating to show us the love. If you have any feedback on our new Kneel Before Rise Against feature, or anything else we have to say, then you can contact us directly on Facebook or Twitter under Kneel Before Blog, or leave a comment on kneelbeforeblog.co.uk. As always, we hope you'll join us on the next Kneel Before Pod.